Hello and welcome to the next episode of In Dispute, looking at the 86th Academy Awards. So this was in 2014, films of 2013, and I'm going to go through this each time. As always, I am joined by Tommy,
Hello, I'm still annoyed by the Oscars year thing. It makes it so complicated.
as you will be every episode.
Yep.
And we have a special guest on with us this time.
Ooh.
We have George.
Hello.
Welcome to In Dispute.
It's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Are you familiar with our In Dispute? You know how it works?
I have a vague understanding.
I'll go through it anyway. So as we're looking at the Oscars, we look at the four big categories. We look at Best Picture, we look at Best Director, we look at Best Actor, and then Best Actress. Decide what we think should have won that year and whether we dispute if the Academy got it wrong or right. And then we look at one of the other categories that we disagreed with or dispute with.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's all there for a reason, folks.
It is all there for a reason. Tommy, why don't you start us off? Which one do you want to look at first?
Let's jump in with Best Actor.
Have you got a list in front of you?
I do have the list in front of me. So, the nominees were Chiwetel Ejiofor for 12 Years a Slave, Leonardo DiCaprio for The Wolf of Wall Street, Bruce Dern for Nebraska, Christian Bale for American Hustle, and the winner was Matthew McConaughey for Dallas Buyers Club. Do you know what? It's another one of those funny old categories that we sort of keeps coming up lately. And to be fair, the few episodes we've done, the Academy have been pretty close. They've been pretty spot on.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few glaring omissions that, I mentioned last episode. That I'm over now. I've calmed down a little bit.
He hasn't calmed. You can see his eyes are full of rage.
But so it's another one of those categories where I think I would have given it to another actor, but at the same time I don't want to take it away from Matthew McConaughey. I think he was really good in Dallas Buyers Club. Personally, this would have been my Oscar for Leo, also over Revenant. I think I mentioned that in the Revenant episode, that this was my... I just thought he showed a layer to his repertoire that I'd never seen before. His comedic physical acting in this was out of this world. I mean, he carried the rest of the film as well, and it's a very long film, and it must have been a very taxing film, and it demanded quite a lot of him. But I think seeing some of that physical stuff that I'd never seen in him before just reminded me once again... Actually, I'm just gonna make a quick note. The film he should have won for was in Django Unchained. This was the lead actor he should have won for. So he was so good in this, and it showed me yet another dimension to him. And I really thought it was going to be his year. But again, not to take away from how good Matthew McConaughey was. What do you guys think?
So, I mean, I would agree with you that Leo's film should have been Django Unchained. I think that performance is amazing. But I agree with Wolf of Wall Street over Revenant. I feel so, like you say, there are multiple facets to his role in Wolf of Wall Street, and to the point where, I mean, you look at how just earnest The Revenant is, that performance, and then Wolf of Wall Street, where he's just like, he's welcoming people to laugh at him, and there's sort of a lack of self-consciousness there.
Yeah.
And it really is a brilliant performance. I've not seen Dallas Buyers Club.
Okay.
I mean, I hear that Matthew McConaughey is great. So good that he's his own future hero, I'm sure.
is one of those true like transformative roles where I think there's a lot of people say, the Academy, give it to this for, whatever reason. But I think there is something to be said for those real physical transformations that actors go through. Yeah. Obviously, the big one this year, even more so than Matthew McConaughey, was Jared Leto, who, I feel like he didn't recover from it quite as well as like, Christian Bale did, because he's probably not human. He's probably some sort of shape-shifting...
And Christian Bale also nominated in the same category for a massive weight gain as well.
Yeah, and it get a very, very different role for Christian Bale. I really liked American Hustle, actually.
I've not gone back to it since
I've also not gone back to it, actually. But I remember really liking it. Almost expecting it to get a few more wins. There may even be another one that we talk about on this show. What about you, James?
Yeah, I'm exactly the same boat, really. I think I really like Leo, and it is probably his best leading performance. I completely agree on that one.
Are you disputing it then, George, or are you sort of just by default like bowing out of this one?
I feel as though, I think from what I've sort of gathered from it, like you say, like a transformative performance, and right in the middle of the reconnaissance, and
I'd say the start of the reconnaissance.
Yeah, that was the start of it.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
What year was this? 2013.
Yeah. Before Mud and stuff like that.
Before Mud?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, in which case, the start of the reconnaissance. So, yeah, for that reason, I feel as though...
Mud was the year before.
The year before.
Fair enough.
But otherwise, though other nominees, I mean, Chiwetel Ejiofor was great in 12 Years a Slave.
He is.
There's a certain someone that maybe I felt could have been nominated, though I'm not going to make that my dispute. I don't know whether I should...
You raise it.
Mention that.
do it.
Joaquin Phoenix in Her.
Oh, right.
Oh, that's a good shout.
Probably not my dispute, Because like you say, this is, and across the board, to be fair, this is one of the ones where even if there are alternates that you feel hit better for you, the ones that the Academy gave them to are fairly, yeah, I could see it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah,
So-
and that's one thing with the show that I found that I struggle, even if it's not my personal choice, I struggle to take it away because I feel like, no, you know what,
Yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah, best actor.
Best actor. George, which category would you like to do next?
I say hop over to director.
Ooh.
Director. Do you have the list in front of you?
I have the list in front of me, so the nominees for Best Director: Martin Scorsese for The Wolf of Wall Street, Alexander Payne for Nebraska, David O. Russell, American Hustle. Oh,
That was the first time we all discovered that rhyme, I think.
Steve McQueen for 10 Years a Slave, and
12.
the winners of the Best Director Academy Award, Alfonso Cuarón for Gravity.
What are your thoughts?
I always had the problem, and I don't know, how many episodes have you done of this?
We didn't do this year, so we started at 2017.
Interesting.
No, we started at 2018
2017
awards for
films.
2017 films. God.
So I always find it difficult with the balance of Best Picture nominees to Best Director nominees.
Right, we've had
And-
this conversation on
and
the show.
amount, right, yeah, and how, you can give, obviously, the majority of Best Picture nominees, you want to also have their directors be nominated for Best Director, but that's not always the case, and then, vice versa. But I think Alfonso Cuarón, I think it's a good one, isn't it? I think, Gravity's bloody good, and Alfonso Cuarón's a great director, but the surprising thing I found on here was no Coen brothers. Was my thing for Best Director for Inside Llewyn Davis, which we might touch on
Right.
later on in the
Oh,
episode.
yeah.
But
Maybe.
Interesting.
I don't know.
I think for me, it's tough because, as you say, Gravity is such an interesting film. Obviously, it was a masterpiece of visual effects. It was a must-see in cinemas. I thoroughly enjoyed my experience there. And, the single character in like a horrible position to be in, it was exhausting watching that. I couldn't catch a breath. But having said that, I think for me, the best director of the year was Martin Scorsese.
Interesting.
I mean, when I look at his body of work in general, and The Wolf of Wall Street still stands as one of my favourites among that. And I think, as I sort of touched on earlier, how sort of big this film is and how, the craft of actually, bringing all this together to create such, it's over 3 hours long, and it still feels like such an easy watch and an easy ride. It still flows for me. It doesn't drag too much. It doesn't feel too out of pace.
Do you feel as though there's a part of it that's derivative of his other work, and so it's just like, well, you've already, obviously it's going to be great, you've mastered it elsewhere, you've done Goodfellas or The Departed or these sort of things that have sort of similar sort of directorial styles or sort of tones or even subject matter.
I do, but I think it's more that he's taken all the lessons learnt from those and created arguably his perfected template of it, rather than it just being a victory lap. It feels more just no, this is how you make these films. I'm the best at these films. This is that, and so I feel like it works in favour of that more than anything. I had a real ride with this film, and I was a little worried about it because at first the question even came to me is he going to be able to do Goodfellas again? Is he going to be able to do that? And for me, he completely delivered. It was it was different enough. It was fresh enough, but it was tight from start to finish. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I really think Scorsese was the best director of the year.
Interesting.
I mean,
Disputed.
I was actually kind of torn between Steve McQueen and Scorsese going
I will
into
say,
this. But I think
I lean more towards Steve McQueen.
I was to start with, and I think what he accomplishes with 12 Years a Slave, it was such a powerful film, something that really touched me in a way that a film like that hadn't in such a long time. But I think Tommy, your point of the 3 hour runtime of Wolf of Wall Street, and that it doesn't feel 3 hours. It's such a great pace for the entire film, keeps you locked, and that in a way that is down to DiCaprio as well, and all the other performances. So I think that does go down to Scorsese, and I think that's kind of making me sway more to disputing that. I think it's going to have to go. I'm going to dispute and say Scorsese should have won. I wouldn't say Cuarón just because I don't like Gravity as much as most people do.
That's fair.
Fair enough.
I think, I'm not a huge lover of Gravity, but I think sort of on a technical level of direction, Cuarón did something that, people talk about, Avatar being sort of a visual effects and digital landscape thing, but how much of Gravity is practical as well. and you look at the sort of the behind the scenes and the making of and the rigs that they have, and Cuarón to sort of direct that is and sort of without a major human element, I think works quite well. I will say to the Wolf of Wall Street though, first saw that at a midnight screening.
Oh yeah, I was there.
It did.
I was standing right next to you.
Did not go quick.
I don't know. I mean, I was tired, but I think that was the time of day rather than like the pace of the film.
But you do forget that, like, you get to the end of the film and you forget that Matthew McConaughey's in it.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, there's a real journey there
Yeah.
when he first gets off that bus, like on Wall Street.
Yeah.
And it's just like this whole journey after that.
Yeah.
Cole Chandler's amazing in that film as well. I really love his like.
He is quite good in that.
Yeah, because there's another thing as well, like to say about the fact that it is that long, but it's also that kind of like that Pete Jackson thing of like the Lord of the Rings, of how much there was and how much he had to do, and there was just the sheer amount of like the volume of directing he did. Like, do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I think there's a lot to be said for that. But yeah, I guess that's best director.
I'm gonna look at best actress because this is an interesting one because I've only actually seen 2 of the films.
Okay.
So it was only between. I'll go through all the other nominees. So it was Meryl Streep, of course, for August.
They just hold a spot for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, for August. Osage County. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I'm gonna go with Sarge just because I like it better.
You should.
Yeah, sure. Judi Dench for Philomena, Sandra Bullock for Gravity, Amy Adams for American Hustle, and then Kate Blanchett won for Blue Jasmine. I've only seen American Hustle and Gravity,
Okay.
so I kind of had to. I don't know. In a way, I'm kind of like bowing out of this one. I don't know if I know enough. I mean, Kate Blanchett is incredible. She's one of the best working actresses out there.
Agreed.
But out of the 2 that I have seen,
Sure.
I think that's the only way. Again, not to diss Judy or Kate or the
Diss
Queen Meryl. Out of between Amy Adams and Sandra Bullock, I was thinking which performance do I remember more? And I think in a way it's a little bit easier to remember Sandra Bullock's performance in Gravity because as much as I've just said that I don't particularly enjoy the film, it's her film. She really carries that, and you really feel the emotion that she's going through. It's she's trapped in space by herself or with George Clooney for the little bit, and even when they're together, they have that great chemistry. And I was thinking about Amy Adams, and I part of that film itself, and why, like none of us said we haven't rewatched it, and I think that kind of spoke to me as to why I'd probably give it to Sandy B over the rest. What are you guys?
It's another one of those categories where, personally, I'm actually probably going to give it to Amy Adams.
Interesting.
I thought she was so good in that, and she just needs an Oscar.
She's so good. It's interesting that we talk about Leo DiCaprio and like sort of the internet sort of memes and outrage of him not having
the internet
an
kind
Academy
of
Award.
carried that a little bit.
Yeah, whereas Amy Adams achieved the same amount of nominations that he did in like 8 years
Much
that
less
he got
than
in 22, and she's like nominated 5 times in like 8 years, and the reason that she wasn't in the other years was because there were like 2 films that cancelled each other out.
And for all such different roles as well. Like you speak about the physical transformations of actors and actresses, but what she's able to change her whole persona. She completely wraps herself in a role. And in American Hustle, she was very much the backbone of it. I felt like she very much carried it in. She stole every scene she was in for one. And she wasn't acting against like anybody. She was acting against some real like Hollywood like A-list. But if you've seen Blue Jasmine and you've seen a second of Kate Blanchett on the screen, then you'll know why it's so hard for me to take it away from her. So I can't do it, and I won't do it, George.
Oh, good. I wouldn't ask you to, because I also think that Kate Blanchett 100% deserved that. It is an astounding performance. I mean, it's Kate. I'm all we have to say is it's Kate Blanchett.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so. I mean, it's probably the bigger performance out of them all. It's the sort of the juicier role.
Yeah.
But it never becomes cliche. I mean, we've seen actors and characters deal with the problems that she does in Blue Jasmine, but they never feel as real as they do in that film. She is phenomenal, and she knows she's phenomenal. One of my favourite things was she won when she was doing the interview afterwards. Someone, a reporter was like, you're the first sort of Australian actress to win 2 Academy Awards. And she went, yeah, and you better not fucking forget it. and I haven't forgotten, Kate. I haven't forgotten. And that's why I'm happy for you to keep your Academy Award.
No disputes.
I think given that you both agree on the Kate Blanchett, I think I won't dispute it. Just I'll willingly let both of your opinion. I trust both of you guys' opinion enough to. I won't dispute it.
I think you can trust in a Kate Blanchett performance as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a safe bet.
Exactly.
Yeah. Unless it's How to Train Your Dragon 2.
So
Calling you out, Kate. I'm calling you out.
Out of the 3 categories so far, how many have you guys disputed with? I think I'm on 1.
I think I'm on 1 too. 1. That was confusing. I'm also on 1.
I'm also on 1. I don't feel as though I've massively... I mean, there's a case to be made for Best Director, but I feel as though I'm fine with Cuarón, which is fine.
Okay. But here we are. Best Picture.
Best Picture. So the nominees were The Wolf of Wall Street, Philomena, Nebraska, Her, Gravity, Dallas Buyers Club, Captain Phillips, American Hustle, and 12 Years a Slave.
Woo.
12 Years a Slave,
Stacked.
obviously, being the winner. That is a stacked year, and that's a really difficult one to call.
Yeah.
And I think that this is another one we've spoken about a few times where you get the nominees, you could see any of them winning.
Yeah, truly. Yeah.
And films that came out that year that could also have been equally nominated.
Yeah, 100%.
Inside Llewyn Davis.
Inside Llewyn Davis, which is... I'm surprised that it wasn't nominated for at least Best Director or Best
I wonder
Picture.
if it was... I wonder if the studios looked at the other films out that year and didn't want to put the money into it because it would have been an expensive year if it comes down to something like that.
Interesting. You think Inside Llewyn Davis couldn't take the hot awards power that was Philomena?
I feel like the studio may not have felt like they wanted to enter that race with some of the other films in there. Truly, I don't know. Why else? Why else?
Well, yeah.
I mean, there's no dispute for me. As much as my personal choice probably would have been The Wolf of Wall Street for the things I've mentioned like twice now. But again, it's I'm not going to take it away from 12 Years a Slave.
No, I adore Her. I think it's phenomenal. I might mention it in something else.
Me too.
Yeah.
But for cinema as a cathartic, emotional, medium, I mean, there's nothing like 12. I mean, you talk about Wolf of Wall Street being, or something being exhausting. Like, 12 Years a Slave is. I mean, you need to take a day and just lie down afterwards.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at Steve McQueen's other work, he's not a light, happy fella.
No, he's
Steve
not.
McQueen.
Is he okay?
He might be concerned about things, but rightly so.
Rightly so.
There's no one who can sort of capture, I think, sort of pain and suffering more than Steve McQueen, and rightly so in 12 Years a Slave. And not just that, but just sort of a sense of sort of anger, and then a sense of sort of holding on to hope. And there's the whole thing about living and not just surviving. And yeah, 12 Years a Slave is not a film unlike American Hustle, where we talk about we've not revisited it. There's a reason we've not revisited 12 Years a Slave. You don't need to. Steve McQueen gives you everything in that first watch, and
yeah, I mean, it's very reminiscent. It's a really weird thing to say, but of Schindler's List in that it's important. It's
right.
Heavy and weighty, and and it is that everyone needs to see it regardless of how hard it is to watch, because you can learn a lot from history, and 12 Years a Slave really captures everything that needed to be captured. as you say, as hard as it is to see and as hard as it is to think about, it shouldn't be ignored.
Completely agree. The exact same point. I don't know. I was going to say let's have a look at some of the other films that we haven't really spoke about, but I think we've covered all the other ones. The only one we haven't covered so far is Captain Phillips.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good movie. Don't know if it's wholly true the story, but show business. Ain't no business like it.
Well, so that is, Tom Hanks does always say, because the amount of famous people and real life people he's played, he does say that I'm going to go places you've never gone. I'm going to say things you never did. I'm going to do things that
Yeah.
But,
it's a good watch.
Yeah. It's fine. I think of all of them, it's.
So is it no disputes across the board for Best Picture?
No, I can't dispute that.
No.
I can't. It's not my personal choice, but I can't dispute it.
No. Yeah.
So Tommy, you've gone from disputing everything last in dispute to just one so far.
I tell you, I've calmed down. I said it right at the top of the show. I'm in a better space.
So this last one, we all picked one other category which we felt we had a problem with instead of going through all the other categories. I imagine we've all got the same thing.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm not confident about that.
I'm torn between two.
Are you?
So I might hear what other people have to say
Fair
before
enough.
deciding.
And then say the one that we haven't said.
Yeah,
So we talk
correct.
about more.
Correct.
Well, what if you go first?
Why would you do that?
I'll go first. So mine is the best cinematography.
Oh, yeah, we've gone the same.
All right.
Um,
Interesting.
Was that yours as well?
Maybe.
Yeah, we've gone the same. But have we gone for the same choice?
Is it her?
Yeah, it's Hoyt van
Yeah.
Hoytema for her.
Yeah.
Oh
You got
I'm
you got
really-
Llewyn Davis.
no.
Oh, okay, we'll get to it.
Okay.
Did you go? Because Roger Deakins, this was one of his many nominations. He got nominated for Prisoners, but her didn't even get nominated, and that blows my mind.
Yeah.
I don't even know how it didn't get nominated. It
Yeah,
should have won.
The film is
Let
gorgeous.
alone-
There's the cliche, every
Yeah.
frame a painting, but it is a stunning watch. And there's such a unique style to it as well. There's such a unique feel to that. The way
Yeah.
it's lit, the colours, and all of that is as much in the lens as possible. And Hoyt van Hoytema is like a big advocate for that. He's one of the true like cinematographers that
Yeah.
commands all of that stuff, and it really pays off in her gorgeous film.
Interesting.
It did get a nomination for production design, so I think but it didn't even win that. But I suppose that was Great Gatsby. But yeah, I think even in a category where you've got the genius that is Roger Deakins, her would take it, and for the exact same reasons that Tommy just said. Yeah, I have to give it to that. George, what's your other dispute?
So, well, it's interesting that you talk about her, and you brought up production design, James, because of the two, her winning production design was going to be my initial dispute.
Interesting.
I think more so than the cinematography, the world building in that and the work that they did on that to sort of composite like
Yeah.
a new future.
The framed computer screens and stuff like
It's
that.
sort of-
Yeah.
yeah, it's all soft palettes and it's all sort of like colorless and angles, and it's a beautiful piece of world building and sort of futurist design in a subtle way that you don't get anymore. But because you've both gone cinematography, I thought it would be interesting if I picked my cinematography
Sure.
bitch,
Wow.
and that is Larry Smith, who is the cinematographer for Nicholas Winding Refn's Only God
Oh,
Forgives.
it was that year.
It was that year.
Oh my god. Oh, that changes things, I think.
So, I mean, if you've ever seen
doesn't
anything
change anything for me.
that Nick Refn's done, it's always looks beautiful, always looks gorgeous. And Only God Forgives is it's an Oedipal, neon-soaked, sort of Asian parable that looks absolutely gorgeous. And it takes if you half remember a David Lynch film better than it was, it's what Larry Smith does on Only God Forgives.
I mean, the visual style of that film's a character in it.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
It's truly standout. I completely agree with you. Sorry, Hoyt. Everything I said, it still stands, but no, that film is a masterpiece, especially in the form of visual arts.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you. Yeah, sorry, Hoyt. You've still got James's nom.
Yeah, you still got my number. Don't worry, Hoyt.
Yeah.
We'll still be friends.
You can still be nominated, but
Yeah, exactly.
no, you ain't winning.
So, how many disputes was that as we start to wrap up this episode?
2 for me.
One for me, I think.
Does Tommy's calmed down a lot. I think I had 2 as well, and that's it for this episode.
You kind of had 2 because you had 2 extra ones.
Okay. Well,
Oh yeah, that's true.
if we're
That is
including
true.
production design, and then, so let's say 3.
Interesting.
So that is it for this episode of In Dispute. Join us next time.
But
when
wait. We have
What?
another show to promote.
Yeah.
Whether
I was
this
getting there, I was
whether this
getting
came out
Go for
before
it.
or after the other one, I don't know.
there. Oh, that's a good point.
But George, what other show are you here to promote? Or what is the first show you're here to promote? Depending on whether.
Now I'm confused about which show I'm promoting, because neither of them really tie in.
No, none of them tie in.
None of them tie in. Should I do them both?
It's up to you.
Well, I'll leave the other one for the other one, and I'll do this one for this one.
Sure.
So, in addition to the podcast that I promoted in the episode that you've just listened to or will soon listen to, I am also co-hosting a podcast with Mr. Tommy Terry Green
Hello.
called Cast It Again, Sam, where we take sort of classic Hollywood movies and recast them with current day actors and actresses. So we just did our first episode on Casablanca, our namesake, and you should definitely give it a listen to. It's very good.
It is. I was there.
I really like that. I like the sound of that. I'm going to listen.
Yeah, it's good fun.
I'm interested.
it's interesting because so what we do, we don't just say what our personal choices are. We also try to throw in what maybe the studio would say now, how the film would get made now, how it would be different now.
Yeah.
So there's layers
cool.
to the show, guys.
Exactly.
That's cool. Whereabouts can people find you when you're not on other podcasts?
So when I'm not on other podcasts, you can find me on Twitter at MoleyJ. That's MOLEYG.
And Tommy?
I'm at Mr. TT Green.
And you could find me at Floodgate28. Go and like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Insider Network _. Go and subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate and review, share, do all those fun stuff. Listen to our other shows. But yeah, that's it for this episode. Go and look up 2012 films, go and watch them, and then let us know what you think should win next time for the next interview. Goodbye.
Bye.